Hello and welcome to Order of the Blackflamesun. This evening, it's your host and High Priestess, Lucivre von der Serpent. And here with me again is Ms. BRITBrat.
Hi!
And today, we're just going to sit and chit-chat about some things. So, last week, Brit, we were talking about stuff that's gone on in your childhood that's been traumatic for you. I would like to go deeper onto that, whatever you feel comfortable. I feel it's something very important that others would benefit from to hear, to have them feel more comfortable about talking about their own things. And why I feel that's comfortable is very important is because I've been going through my own stuff, digging in my family heritage tree, and a lot of the stuff that was normal in our family is actually stemming from a long line of human trafficking and sexual abuse, and it all got kept quiet, and it's been an ugly thing. And I feel like us talking about it hopefully can start to take away the taboo and the shame around sexuality, to help people learn what's appropriate and what's inappropriate, and when to be able to start to speak out when they feel things are inappropriate, so that way they don't end up with things like struggling with the different things in life that happen to evolve all those things, like ending up becoming a sex worker, or ending up feeling shame in our own skin because of our boundaries being crossed at a young age. So with that, how after that little incident that you were talking about last week, how do you feel that affected you afterwards? Like, how did that change you?
Well, absolutely. It's always affected me, even to this day. It's just kind of hard because, I guess in the moment when you're a kid, it's, you don't look at it like, I didn't really look at it like it's my fault, because I didn't even really know what happened. I kind of just figured, like, I trusted somebody in my family, I guess, and I didn't even know what I was going through. Like, it was so hush-hush, like, it was so quiet. Like, I didn't even know I was doing anything wrong, and I always knew I was different. I had these feelings, but, like, I didn't know what that individual did was wrong at the time. So I had no kind of sense of, like, people say that's wrong, that's not supposed to happen, but when you're, like, I also had I was kind of a slower comprehension growing up. I had a hard time. I was in special ed, I was in resource programs, so I kind of had a slower learning curve than, I guess, other kids. Plus, I was sheltered, so that kind of factored in on my innocence or naivety, I guess.
Do you feel like the fact that your parents trusted you with that other adult in a way set you up to think that, okay, my parents trusting me with this person, so what they're doing, like, can't be bad? I think at a young age, as an adult, your parent, you trust them with whoever they leave you with, that you're okay, right?
Well, that was the whole problem, is I never trusted my father. Like, even when I was, like, 2 or 3 or 4, my father was always had signs of aggression. Like, he used to slap my cousin around when I was really younger, and that was his first scandal with my mom's side of the family.
Mm-hmm.
And then he I've always known him to just be always angry when I was a kid. And when I was younger, I remembered we'd have, like, a Bible study in the living room, and then, like, one of our chores wasn't done to his standards because he was in the Navy, like I said. So it's like, it was no longer like, oh, you didn't clean that right. It was, our face was thrown into it. Spankings, hittings, yelling, always. So it was always, I feared my father growing up. Always feared him. And not just because, the violence, but it was also the toxic masculinity of, like, I was never, I just felt different and I didn't know how different that meant. I thought it was just every day to day to day, you know what I mean? So it's like, when this happened to me, I had no sense of, I was already fearful of my father, per se, so I didn't really trust him. If I didn't say the right things in front of him, it was just, get the belts, so it was kind of like, I just didn't want to piss him off. So I figured I had to do this, or he's going to fucking ram it down my fucking throat,
Yeah.
So I had no sense of, knowing. It was kind of like forced onto me regardless.
Yeah.
Either way. So it was like a twofer,
Yeah.
So,
well,
I mean,
I'm going to say I can relate. My story, I'll share a little bit about my stuff with you and with the audience here, is going back through my autobiography right now and writing my history. I'm remembering a lot of stuff, and as I said, just to share a little bit, my family, my mother grew up in an orphanage and was submitted to human trafficking. My aunts were it's a heavy part of my bloodline on my mother's side, and that twisted their perception on what was okay and what wasn't okay. So when I was younger, when my mom got divorced from my dad, we came out to live with her family, which she never knew. She knew nothing about, and that's when a lot of the sexual abuse and molestation started happening. So my grandfather, when I would sit on his lap and come to find out a lot of the other women now that are finally old enough, I was talking about this stuff that happened to them too. Like, he would molest me and molest them when we were sitting on our lap with family around.
Oh
and
God.
At a young age, to me, I got this going on here underneath my dress, but yet everything's okay on outside. And to me, I think in my perception going back, I just kind of started to accept the fact that that's what happened, and that when you're a pretty little girl, that kind of stuff happens, and your grandfather does those things, and that just my mentality, I think at a young age and just not understanding it,
right?
But at the same time, there's just so many, even just talking about right now, there's so much stuff
Absolutely.
that goes on. And looking how I feel that shaped me to be able to have my boundaries were crossed at a young age. So having that little crack happen at a young age made it possible for me to be just so open and sharing with my body, because those boundaries were broken.
Right.
And what's crazy to me is you're talking about the abuse stuff that happened a lot in my home with the spanking and all that stuff, and shaming and not letting us speak. And now looking back, it's I was trying to showing those signs. My mom would get mad at me for having those signs and thinking I was over sexually explorative, when those were signs because something was going on in the background.
Absolutely. And back then the excuse was
you're possessed, you're devil, this and that. When
as well as it was that generation. Yeah. That's how it was back when we were kids, and that's how I learned. There was no accountability. There was no I'm trying to change the family dysfunction, or that cycle of abuse in families. It's the offender, the victim becomes the offender, then victimizes. You know what I mean? That cycle of just abuse. And what made it even 10 times fucking cherry on the cake was fucking my father was this head pastor of this religious fanatic community of people, and he was looked up as somebody to look up to, oh, he would never do this. That's not who he is. But it's I live with him every day. I know exactly who this person was.
And you know what, Brittany? It's crazy that you bring up the fact, and I want our listeners to know that we're not on here shaming religion.
Oh, absolutely not.
Because I feel, personally, I don't know if you agree with me or not, I feel like every culture has their way of coming to spirituality, and every culture has their beautiful way of integrating it according to their culture and stuff like that, and that you get a form of religion. But I think the ugly part comes into play when people use that as an excuse or a way to dominate others and take advantage of young kids or people that are little, got little illnesses or something like that. That's why we're talking about this
absolutely
stuff.
And not just that, but not just that too, just every facet of life. You and I are both in recovery right now.
Yeah.
And we are in a program where we go to meetings, we're doing a 12-step program, and it's just so happenly that every text in this big book study that we go through happens to mention God. Now, some people associate God as a higher principle of spirituality, but for me, as a child growing up, God was one thing and one thing only, because that's what I had to believe in, or I was going to hell and burning forever for the rest of my life. So every time I hear that God word, I don't associate good, orderly direction. I don't associate... Well, I kind of have my own little slang. When I was in my rebellious phase, I'd be like, yeah, I believe in God, gang of dick. You know?
Oh,
but anyways, that's a whole other topic. I know it's kind of disrespectful. Anyway.
No, but you know what? If, like, in the psychology field and all that stuff, it makes... Like, it's so crazy that everything, and from my experience, everything that people portray as in art, this drawing these dark things, it's a aspect of deeper things going on in their life, but they don't know how to put it into words, or they've tried and they've been shamed and their voices have been shut out and shut off. So it comes out in other ways in art and being drawn to the opposite of religion.
My father used to have me and my sister both picket at abortion clinics, and he would tell us to hold the sign. We had no idea what the sign said, but we'd have all these people hating on us, screaming at us, yelling at us, like, and it was just, we were such a pawn in this grand scheme of this blanket word of Christianity or God even. So it's like, even in context, even I struggle today with, like, even getting past the second step, which is, I don't even know it by heart, because it's like, it has something to do with believing in a higher power.
We came to believe in a power greater than ourselves.
Absolutely. And I have a hard time believing in that because of the fact of what these principles, or what society what considers God is equal to Christianity, or, you know, it's never God equals Buddhist or God equals love, or God. Everyone associates God with Jesus Christ. And that's just the way it is. And it's like, you try not to believe that they push these values or these hidden agendas, I sometimes believe. And I don't want to go into conspiracy theories about this, but it's just like, everybody knows God equates to Christianity, and God we trust. It's never in Allah we trust. It's never in Buddha we trust. It's never in, it's always the Christianity context of it. And in English language, that's important, because you need to label things to understand the context of what it means. And to just say it can be anything, it's like confusing to people.
And I understand where you're coming from, because words are very powerful things, have a lot of energy. They hold a lot of energy. And
or dark
what
energy,
people are, there's a lot of knowledge that have been hidden from the public eye to realize how powerful their words. But yet in the advertising industry, I went to school for fashion design and for advertising. And in the advertising industry and art, we know how strong placing a certain color, placing a certain shape, saying certain words, how these things affect the subconscious. Millions of dollars are spent on these things every year.
Yeah, absolutely.
So even in religion, the religion context, like I said before, the actual church that murdered the Mason, the master, the 33rd degree, a wizard, and they was very well at these these mysteries of energy and all this stuff, murdered him to keep those things secret, and then took those literature and those teachings and used it for themselves to create the shaming of the human body and to rob the masses of being able to have that empowerment to, like, have control over and choice over their body and will, by twisting. There's a lot of truth in the Bible, but it's been twisted, and by religious context, it's been twisted.
Absolutely. And what's so funny you say that is, even my family, what little family I have left, it's like, my sister, I love her to death. She is my rock now. Like, we're building such a stronger bond now, and I love her so much. Shout out to Tiffany, I love you. But, like, again,
we're going to pause you on that note, and we're going to switch over to the next part 2 of this pod, because we only can do 15 minutes at a time. But we're going to come back, and we're on a good note, so we're going to end there.
Come back for more. Holla.